Greetings and welcome to another special episode of Modern Modding Showcases, and this time around we're going to be taking a look at the recent and certainly quite massive City of Balmora by Praedator and EnvyDeveloper. And now this is a pretty massive mod that's been in development for quite a long time, originally created by Praedator as an expansion to Balmora, but which quickly became a massive expansion of all the Hlaalu settlements, including a number of new strongholds, a new island, and much more. And after Praedator left the community in 2014, EnvyDeveloper took over work on the project, creating 39 new quests involving 3 new factions and releasing the mod in its current state. And to say the least, there's a lot here, and you'll find timestamp annotations down below to jump to particular segments of this video. And it should be noted that there's 2 different versions of this mod available, a complete full package of the original City of Balmora, which is a bit laggy, and a quest-only version that only, keeps those areas that are involved in the mod's quests. And we're going to be taking a look at the full and complete version here, so you can see everything that this mod does. But as a result, the FPS is going to, drop quite a bit in a few places here. But anyway, you'll find a download link for City of Balmora down below, so let's get started here. And we're going to start out, obviously, in the City of Balmora, which this mod is named after. And this is quite possibly the largest expansion mod built for Balmora, and it greatly expands the regional capital of the Great House Hlaalu both to the south and to the north of the historic city limits. We're going to begin our tour of the city on the new, sort of southern border of Balmora, which is the shipping and harbour district, located along the Overhaul river here. And obviously, this is where you can find ships travelling south to the coast, as well as shipping cranes for cargo, warehouses, and a number of Hlaalu towers, including the new headquarters for the Great Hlaalu Guard, a new faction added in by this mod. There's also a lot of outdoor merchants and vendors, and even a few residential dwellings the closer you get to the historic city gates. But instead of, heading straight into the heart of the city here, we're going to head east along the road that goes to Fort Moonmoth, and indeed the City of Balmora has been expanded almost all the way to the Imperial Legion Fort. You'll find Hlaalu towers, buildings, and shacks leading out of the town all the way to the crossroads near Fort Moonmoth, a rather massive expansion of the city. And we're going to continue our tour here by approaching the city from the east, with this now crowded street entering the city. And, I have to say, this is probably one of my favourite vistas from City of Balmora. The way the shacks and Hlaalu towers paint the skyline here is quite epic looking, and certainly breathtaking. And whatever else might be said for this massive mod, the city designs are really top notch, as is to be expected from a modding legend like Praedator, who also did work on a lot of the province mods, such as the original version, I think, of Anvil, though he does have a bit of a reputation for making cities a little too big, I suppose. And anyway, we're going to jump back over to the historic southern gates of Balmora, and right next to the Silt Strider port here, and just going into the Merchants Quarter here, you'll now find a massive outdoor market in the Central Merchants Plaza, with hundreds of wares on display and for sale. And this is also probably one of the heaviest parts of the city in terms of frame rate. I think my FPS here dropped down to about 12 when recording, and 20 FPS when not recording, so probably most machines will experience at least some lag here. But moving on, we're next going to be heading into the Manor District here, which has been expanded into the hillside a bit with a number of scenic and again epic-looking Hlaalu towers waving that proud Hlaalu banner in the background. And this is somewhat reminiscent of Mike and Ike's 2014 mod, Epic Balmora, which has a similar sort of design. But aside from that, the main public square in the Manor District has also seen a slight overhaul, with a bit more clutter and a few central decorative pieces, such as a podium for someone from Great House Hlaalu to address the public on formal occasions. And for the most part though, all these changes are pretty cosmetic, and the Manor District, aside from these towers in the background here, really haven't been expanded all that much. There's a couple of new shops going towards the temple, and also a public bathhouse, but that's about it for this district really. And now just exploring a couple of other areas here real quick. Along the steps leading up to the Manor District, you'll now find an outdoor cafe, with some outdoor seating with some really scenic views of the city. And heading over to the Temple District, you'll notice quite a few new buildings are now cluttered around the temple here, making for a more urban environment. And you'll also find some more guard towers down along the Canal District. And really the Canal District has seen quite a few changes here, with a new railing, streetlights, outdoor vendors, hawking their wares, outdoor dining, even a couple of new houses here and there, and not to mention some detritus along the walkways and in the Overhaul River itself. It's truly a very cluttered environment, and as such it will cause a few frame rate drops, as you might expect. Now we're going to gradually be making our way to the northern edge of town here, but first we're going to explore the Canal District just a bit more, just because there's really quite a bit of detailing right along here, and assuming your computer doesn't explode from so many exterior references, you really gotta appreciate the life it adds to the cityscape. And something I should probably mention here, while this is a fairly massive expansion for Balmora, adding, if I had to guess, about 60 or 70 new buildings to the city, not all of them have interiors. And in the case of Balmora here, I'd say only about maybe half of the new buildings come with interiors for you to check out and explore. The rest have blocked doors, much like Mathi-Agea's epic Balmora. So some of the buildings here are largely cosmetic in appearance and function, but still they do help to create a really beautiful and epic urban environment. And anyway, getting back to the showcase here, our last stop in the city of Balmora is the northernmost shack district, which sort of follows the road and the Odar River going out to town up to the bridge here. And actually, most of these buildings do have interiors, unlike other parts of town. And another addition here is an absolutely beautiful set of waterfalls along the Odar River. And all in all, while certainly FPS heavy, this is just a really breathtaking expansion of Balmora. But of course, this mod doesn't just expand Balmora, it also expands the perhaps second most important Hlaalu city on Vardenfell, the gem of the Ascaean Isles, the city of Suran. Though keep in mind that in the quest-only version of the city of Balmora, there's basically no changes made to Suran, but with the full version here, you'll get a massive upgrade to this sleepy trade town, and really the entire look and feel of Suran has just been completely changed for the city of Balmora, and the town has been expanded both up and down the banks of the Ascaean Isles here, with new residential areas added to the northern part of town around the Siltstrider, and to the road leading into town here. And also the south side of the city has been expanded with a large harbour and docks area, as we'll see here in a minute. And anyway, the northern part of town is almost a bit maze-like, with a number of side streets, outdoor vendors, and various bits of clutter, including crates and barrels, and even a few gardens here and there. And much like Balmora, Suran now has a great outdoor market, with dozens of outdoor merchants and vendors hawking hundreds of wares. And as with Balmora, the frame rate is perhaps a bit of a problem here. You'll notice a number of frame rate drops in this part of the city, so that's just something to keep in mind. Regardless of frame rate issues though, this part of the city is certainly quite beautiful and scenic, with lots of detail and clutter, and the market here comes right up to the city docks, which includes expanded walkways, a number of ships docked in the harbour, and of course more of those iconic Hlaalu towers with the Hlaalu banner waving freely, announcing to all the world that this is a settlement of the great and powerful mercantile house. And you know, since Mathi-Agea never did do a Suran mod, this is probably the most epic version of Suran available anywhere. And it's certainly quite grand in appearance, and again quite detailed with railings, streetlights, and lots of detritus, and dozens of new buildings. But unlike Balmora, where about half of the newly added buildings had interiors, basically none of the new buildings here, except for perhaps one or two exceptions, have interiors. So this expansion is largely cosmetic, without much in the way of new content to explore. But it sure is really quite pretty regardless, and you know, one could argue that the scenic skyline is perhaps enough to justify having it installed. But again, if you'd rather just have the content version of this mod, you can just use the quest-only version, which doesn't include the Suran expansion. And now there's only one more thing for us to explore here in this new version of Suran, and that's the Manor District up by the temple here, which is a bit more cut off from the rest of the city, but is still rather beautiful, with small flowering gardens here and there, and a few new buildings added to the streets here. And now next up, we're going to be checking out some of the smaller Hlaalu settlements that City of Balmora just happens to also touch upon, such as the small village of Hlaalu, which has been, you know, lightly expanded with a Hlaalu manor now overlooking the rest of the shacks here. And of course, speaking of shacks, there's a few more of those here as well, with a slight expansion along the southern edge of town, and also towards the docks. And unlike Suran, none of these buildings really have any interiors, so they're mostly just, you know, empty and cosmetic in purpose. There's really not that many mods that touch on Hlaalu, and out of those that do, most, you know, just aren't really of particularly good quality. So this is already one of the better Hlaalu expansions out there just by default. And before we move on, we're going to take just a slightly more detailed look at the docks here, which are definitely more crowded than they were before. And also, you'll find a new ship here that can take you to the new Hlaalu Island added by the mod, which we'll be checking out later. Coming up on Gnaar Mark here, the Shack Village has also seen a fairly big expansion with considerable changes made to the docks especially, providing more of a port-like atmosphere, as well as new Hlaalu guard towers along the city, and perhaps a dozen new shacks as well. They were much like the city of Suran and Hlaalu. These mostly don't have any new interiors. And, you know, personally, I gotta say that I prefer, you know, Melkor's version of Gnaar Mark overall, just in terms of more content to see and do. But as with most things about City of Balmora, you'll find that the quest-only version is perfectly compatible with Melkor's mod, if you'd prefer to play with that. And there is also a bit of a trading outpost included with the city here, just inside the Hlaalu Manor's courtyard, and overall it's a fairly scenic update to this, you know, sleepy little shack village. And now, before we move on to perhaps one of the biggest features of this mod, the new island ads off the coast of Overhaul, I wanted to take just a quick look at some of the new strongholds and trading outposts you'll now find along the roads and waterways of Hlaalu territory. Starting with this one in the Bitter Coast region, which guards the entrance to the Odai River. And I believe there's about 2 new strongholds in the Bitter Coast region now. But next we're going to be checking out the trading outpost in the Skillful region, located right outside the City of Balmora along the crossroads heading between Mathi-Agea, Suran, and Ebonheart, which is certainly a good place to set up a trading outpost, and that can be attested to by the number of merchants that have just taken up residence here. And there's quite a few new strongholds in the Skillful region, including another one over by Vivek. And in total, I think you'll find about 5 strongholds or trading outposts in the Skillful, adding quite a bit of civilization to the fertile waterways and farmlands in the Skillful region. Now, in addition to a bunch of city expansions and new strongholds and all that, this mod also adds a new island off the Bitter Coast region, which supposedly is compatible with Tower built. And this is evidently the home of a large Hlaalu city called Mathi-Agea, or Mathi-Agea. Not really sure which way you're supposed to pronounce that, but anyway. Basically, it's a big Hlaalu port city, with a fairly extensive harbour district and numerous ships at port. And this island is included in both the full complete version of City of Balmora and the quest-only version, since some of the quests do involve this island here. But anyway, it is a rather scenic city, in the same sort of style and design as the expansions to Balmora and Suran, with lots of Hlaalu towers and overall fairly dense urbanization. And we're going to spend just a bit of time exploring the city, which is made up of about 60 or so buildings, many of which again do not have any interiors. I think there might be a dozen buildings or so that have actual interiors attached to them here, but for the most part, the city is largely cosmetic at this stage. And you also find, you guessed it, another great market in this city with dozens of outdoor merchants and vendors selling all sorts of odds and ends. And really, this mod just adds a lot of merchants everywhere in Hlaalu settlements, it seems, which I suppose is appropriate given the, house's mercantile status and emphasis on trade and all that. Still, as always though, these areas are hard on FPS and will certainly cause, some issues on lower end machines. And anyway, moving on to the other side of the city here, you'll find a second set of docks, as well as a small shack district on one side of the town here. And, the landmass here is fairly scenic, all things considered. It's just a shame there's not more interiors for you to see here. But it's a pretty cool place to visit and explore, and again, some of the quests will take you here eventually, so it isn't, completely devoid of content or anything like that. And now there is a bit more to this island than just the large Hlaalu city we just saw. There's also a bit of wilderness, with its swamps and the like dividing off the southern half of the island, where the Hlaalu city is located, and the northern half of the island, which is home to a small shack village, and also an Imperial Legion fort. And I'm actually not sure if either of these 2 areas here have any interiors or not, can't forget to check that. But either way, it's again a rather scenic area to explore, and just goes to show how large this mod is, and Praedator certainly did have a pretty good eye for exterior design, as you can see here. And next up, we're going to be taking a look at a few dungeons and quests that have been added in by City of Balmora. And as I've mentioned before, City of Balmora adds 39 new quests and 3 factions to the game, including the Young Mages Gathering, the Great House Hlaalu Guards, and the Red Church Temple that you can join and progress through. There's also about, I'd say, 8 to 12 new dungeons, most of them quest-related, that you'll get to explore and or fight through. We're first going to be checking out the sewers underneath Balmora, which have a rather unique and decidedly Hlaalu design to them. There's really nothing else quite like it, and basically the sewers here were made from a construction set point of view by combining dozens upon dozens of Hlaalu buildings together to form a consistent, sort of sewer-like appearance. And the sewers beneath Balmora are quite large, and certainly a bit maze-like, ensuring that you'll eventually get lost or turn around if you keep exploring down here. But all the same, you'll find some pretty neat-looking areas down here as well. There even seems to be the occasional house or other little, hole in the wall down here where people might live. And for the most part, you only have to worry about the rats and the swordfish in terms of things to fight and kill. And now taking a look at some of the quests here, we're going to start out with the Young Mages Gathering, which is basically a loosely organized faction of mages who gather in various towns and sip tea while discussing intellectual discussions of magic without the supervision or oversight of the Imperial Mages Guild. And as you might expect from such a loosely organized faction, most of their, early quests here are fetch-based, such as retrieving some misplaced tea shipments or things of that nature, and this will eventually lead you to another one of the newly added dungeons here. And one of the things you're going to notice is that the dungeon design in City of Balmora is really pretty good, with some extremely detailed interiors, often using the same sort of cavern design strategy that I use myself in my own mods. And obviously I'm a big fan of that sort of style of cavern design, with all the rocks everywhere and all that. But unlike a normal dungeon where you'd run through and kill everyone, I've noticed that the NPCs in a lot of the City of Balmora dungeons won't attack you, at least not immediately anyway, providing potentially, non-violent solutions to complete them, which is a nice feature, though perhaps not to everyone's taste. Of course, you could just start killing everyone regardless and still achieve the same ends, since apparently the residents here have stolen the tea shipment in order to trick some hapless adventurer into, stopping by and doing some work for them, which is an odd strategy to say the least, but, you have the choice to help them out, or just kill them all. And helping them out involves taking care of a beast and some dated ruins that they're excavating here. But anyway, this is just one of several quests that you can do for the Young Mages Gathering. But next we're going to be taking a quick look at another faction, the Great House Hlaalu Guards, a law-keeping order of guards that help to, keep the peace in Hlaalu settlements. And basically, they're an extension of the vanilla Hlaalu Guard. And to become a member of the Great House Hlaalu Guards, you first need to be a member of Great House Hlaalu. And many of the first quests you'll get to do are somewhat trivial, locating missing or stolen items, trying to break up fights, often unsuccessfully, keeping an eye on the market during the night time, and, other sort of traditional god-like duties. And anyway, we're going to take just a brief look at the last faction here, the Red Church Temple, which has a sort of massive underground complex, as you can see here, with Velothi-style buildings, and most of these do, by the way, have interiors. And now, to be perfectly honest, I haven't really explored that much of the various factions here, but from what I've sampled, the author's comments that they're not, like other quests seem to be fairly truthful. There's more choice involved, and generally speaking, these choices involve more speaking skills than the typical run-and-gun approach found in most quest mods. And there does seem to be, more ways to fail quests as well, which might be a little frustrating, and hopefully the author will produce some sort of walkthrough in the future to reduce, potential confusion. But anyway, we're going to be taking a look at just a couple more dungeons here, just to show off the variety and sometimes epic-looking locations you'll get to find with City of Balmora, such as this mysterious underground village located in a large central cavern with dense and atmospheric lighting, and just some really fantastic-looking areas. And you'll find a number of these sort of atmospheric and foreboding chambers included with the new dungeons found in City of Balmora. And again, the dungeon design here is top-notch, and it will make for some intriguing places to visit and explore. And in any event, we're coming close to the end of our showcase here, and rest assured, we've only just, scratched the surface of what you'll find in City of Balmora. It's a truly massive mod, and while it might not have everything that Praedator originally envisioned, it still has quite a lot to see and do, and it's definitely worth checking out for yourself. And now that's pretty much the end of today's video. Again, you'll find download links down in the video description below. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.